Good day, Economic Theory students. Today I would like to explain the IS-LMBP with you and do some figuration here and show you the graph and do some explanation. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to extend on the IS-LM and do the BP, which is now the open economy with you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the graph and then I'll do some of the explanations and I'll do a case study review. So let's firstly draw the graph. So to draw the graph, draw it like this. Let me just get the black highlighter that's working properly. Okay, so you have interest rates. Okay, so you have interest rates this side, and then you have income this side, and then now. Okay. Good day, Economics Theory students. Today I would like to discuss the IS-LMBP graph with you. So I'm going to do a case study review, and then you can follow along and draw it. The case study I'm going to do is the contractionary physical policy review. One that is not in your textbook. The one in your textbook is the one of the expansionary physical policy, so we're just going to do the opposite of that one. Okay. So first let's draw our LM-IS line. LM-IS. Okay. So that's pretty straightforward, same as chapter 3. Now let's include our BP curve, which is now an open economy. Everything up until chapter 3 is a closed off economy. Now from chapter 4 we move into an open economy where we include a foreign sector and the foreign influence of trade with exports, imports and capital flow. Okay. So very important where to draw your BP curve. Now you might have seen some figures that has a BP curve that's steeper than the LM curve or a BP curve that's flatter. Okay. Now for test purposes, normally when we ask you an IS-LMBP question, you just draw the one with a flat BP curve. So your BP curve will be flat like this. So you won't be too indifferent to this. So this will be your BP or skeleton for your IS-LMBP question. Unless we specify otherwise, then you draw a steep one. Okay. So this is the model in the textbook, so this is also the model you use in the tests and exams. The reason for this I will show you now. So here's your skeleton and let's do a question. So our question is government spending decreases. Now I'm not going to explain everything in full or write it down in full. You have a textbook, you can go and study your textbook to get all your answers and all your explanations. Okay. So if the government spending decreases, then you know that Y decreases, and you know that your your imports will decrease. So your current account will be in a surplus. So CA surplus. But there's also a secondary effect here. If your Y decreases, it means your MD decreases, it means your interest rates decrease. And remember, interest rates is a rate of return for foreign investment, so it determines your capital inflow. So if your interest rates decrease, you get less capital inflow, so your financial account will be in a deficit. And here's where the important assumption comes in. When we have a BP curve like this, we assume that our financial account is more sensitive than our current account, so you BP or BOP will follow your financial account. So whatever is in your financial account, your BOP will be in the same situation. So our financial account is in a deficit, so our balance of payment will also be in a deficit. And that's very important because you might get a surplus here and a deficit here, but overall, where's your BOP? It's in a deficit because we follow the financial account. So this is an assumption we make, and unless we specify other ways, you will always make this assumption where the financial account is a strong driving force behind, the stronger driving force behind your balance of payment. So firstly, let's draw our IS curve. So we know that the government spending decreases, so your IS should shift downwards, and I'm going to make a big decrease in IS. That's another trick for you to draw this. You always make your original curve, shifting curve, very big. That's the easy way to draw it, and I'll show you that in the end. Okay. So now that you know the BOP is in a deficit, you need to continue with the question. So you've moved from this point to this point, And even on the BP line, you can see you're below the BP line, which is a deficit. Anything above the BP line, we know is a surplus. So you can even see this from your graph, your answer here. So from your answer here, you need to adjust. You all know there's two adjustments you need to make. Your first one is your short run, second one is your medium term adjustment to get your BOP back to equilibrium. Okay. First adjustment, so it's a deficit, so there's an outflow of foreign reserves out of your country. So what do? You say money supply decreases. Okay, now everything else I'm not going to explain to you. You can go to the textbook to see what's the impact. What do? You just take your textbook answer and you just switch it around. Okay, in the textbook we have expansionary fiscal policy, and you just change all the signs around so you can understand it from a restrictive side. But very important, your money supply decreases. As soon as you see your money supply decreasing, what do? You actually go and decrease your LM curve, because we all know that if your MS decreases, your LM curve should decrease. So you decrease your LM curve, but again by not too much this time. So maybe decrease it like this, and your LM curve shifts this way, and you move to this point. So 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. Okay. So those are the three shifts. So now we continue with the question. Again, our balance of payment deficit has been reduced due to this effect, but the second effect now will reduce it even further back to equilibrium. So again, there's an outflow of foreign reserves, and that leads the rand to depreciate. Now if the rand depreciates, then it means that your exports will increase and your imports will decrease, and in total your current account then should increase. But this formula will also shift two curves. Firstly your IS, secondly your BP, and that's where these two secondary shifts come in. So your IS curve, because the current account has increased, you know that IS is C plus I plus G plus X minus Z. So this entire formula has increased. Okay, so what happens to IS curve? The IS curve will increase. Again, the secondary effect is very small, so you maybe draw it close to the shifting curve. You draw it here, so you say IS and then increased. Okay, you leave a gap, and I'll show you that gap now, because as your IS increased, your BP curve should also increase, and that's where you find your new point of equilibrium. You say, okay, our BP curve needs to increase, so you draw your new BP curve through your new IS-LM equilibrium. So you draw it here, and you can see your BP curve then has increased, and that's why I made small changes, because it leaves enough room for me to do these small adjustments here. If you make these changes too small, you won't be able to get this area to make the changes. You can practice this at home and you can see the results. So again, your original shift is big, then your 1, 2, and 3 small other changes are small. Okay, so all the other shifts are small, and then you get to this point. Sorry, let me just get it. Sorry, you get to. Yes, sorry. Just a quick recap here. My BP curve. I actually didn't go right here. Okay, so you shifted your IS upwards, so this is your new IS line, so you should draw your BP curve here. Okay, sorry for that mistake. So your BP curve should be here, so you go from 0.1 to 0.2 to 0.3 to 0.4. So this is your new equilibrium point, and the new equilibrium point can be determined where your new LM line, your new IS line, and your new BP line cross each other at 0.4. And that is your entire model for a contractionary fiscal policy. Again, this is not a replacement for a lecture, also not the only important thing for a test. It's just for students who want to follow with me and maybe struggle to understand it on their own. So please go and watch the video, and yes, thank you very much for your time. Again, just to recap, BP curve below the LM line, then your financial account is your driving force, and whatever happens to your financial account will happen to your deficit. Decrease in interest, financial account deficit, balance of payment deficit. Very important to look at. Okay, thank you very much. Hope you enjoy your long weekend, and hope you study well for the test.